guys, thank you so much for checking back out on my channel. This is Colin, Future RN. Super happy to be back with you guys. Wanted to be able to update you guys on a little bit of a different video today at the end of June here. I know the last couple of videos have been also a little bit different in regards to my normal nursing program updates. You should go check those videos out. They were based off a review of Outschool and VIP Kids, as well as just an update over the summer, what I've been doing through my semesters in nursing school. So I wanted to go ahead and jump back on here and do a quick video of updating you guys on what I have picked up the last couple of months, which has been jogging or running, and a little bit different than a nursing program, but I actually would love to discuss with you guys the benefits, especially of a new runner, pros, cons, if you guys are looking to pick it up, and hopefully even experienced runners would agree with this video once I'm done explaining my progress, and hopefully give a thumbs up. So I'm actually a strength and conditioning coach. I have been in the field for roughly about 6 years now, and have worked with college athletes at great Division I schools, many different sports, male and female, as well as working my way up into the professional realm with baseball. And I've also worked private sector, which has been very fun, working with youth athletes. And so I am very familiar with, and privileged and blessed to be familiar with, anatomy and physiology and kinesiology, and the ways that the body uses different energy systems, the ways the body is able to adapt and progress and digress and regress. And so I've really enjoyed. This is actually my grad school shirt here, Cal U. And so it's where I got my exercise science master's degree in. So I've been familiar with some of these, topics, and have been educated on it, which I have been super thankful for, and have had a fun experience with it and learned a lot. And obviously nursing gets into physiology as well, and a lot of anatomy, especially when it comes down to gas exchange and things of that nature, which are very important and useful and helpful to understand when jogging and running. So I actually have now, to this date, have ran 46 miles in about a 2-month span. So here is my Strava account. You guys should definitely go follow. As you can see, we are at 46 miles at the bottom for the year. I've only ran 2 miles this week, but it is Tuesday. And so this is just a fun little app that I find to be helpful, especially with recording and being able to, continue to monitor. Not only it monitors everything as long as you have the material to do it. And obviously, if you record yourself on the app while you're running, it's just going to record your distance. But if you have a Garmin or some type of Apple Watch or something like that, then you can record your heart rate and those types of things, which is super helpful, because then you can start to know, what your thresholds are, which is always good, especially when you start to get into a little bit more of the serious training type of running. So jumping right into it, man, I have so much respect for running and for runners now. I see someone jogging, I am convinced that they are absolute machines, especially if they have good form and they do it consistently. And you see those runners around, and you know who they are, and you know that they run probably 5, 10, 15 miles at a time sometimes. And so, man, it is a newfound respect for those who run multiple miles plus weekly. And even more so for the ultra, runners, the marathon runners. Man, these people are running sometimes 100 miles at a time. It's literally incredible what our body is capable of doing with the right, mixture of training and diet and leadership It's amazing. Jumping right into it, so 45 plus miles in a couple months. I have been averaging probably roughly in between 5 to 7 miles a week. I was not a runner before this. I have jogged and done, participated in sports in the past. As far as like basketball and everything like that, where I've had to, do some actual monitored, team-oriented running. But as I gotten into college and out of college, I have stayed in shape for the most part by God's grace, and I've been able to continue to lift weights and those types of things. I've done everything from very, very, very serious and devoted powerlifting to, sides of bodybuilding to just more functional and just staying healthy and safe, and always mixturing something to do with cardiovascular, strenuous activity in it. But a lot of times it'd be just couple sprints or Stairmaster or something like that. Nothing like, jogging 3, 4, or 5 miles at a time, and trying not to stop and all those things. And so, man, it has been such a wonderful journey. I have really not lost a ton of weight. I weighed about 215. I weigh about 210 now. I wasn't doing it necessarily to lose weight. I was doing it more of, obviously with the pandemic and those types of things that's happened, facilities have been closed. And so I've been able to, use what we have, has been God-given in front of us, the outdoors, and get back into some exercising, and running in particular was something that I had not done faithfully and consistently enough to be able to say I can help someone with it, for one, and two, to be able to really understand what your body's going through and the challenges of it. So I went out and I first bought a pair of Hoka running shoes. You guys go check that video. I did a review on the Hokas. They're carbon rocket Hokas. They have a carbon fiber plate on the bottom, so the bounce is a little bit more responsive when you're striking the ground, and I really love that about those, especially for me being a new runner. Anything that can help get the gait and the next knee up. And so, but I went and got those, and I just, looked at some running training programs and basically just tried to start off and get back into it very, very slowly. Right now, my pace could be anywhere from 2 to 3 miles at a time. Could be, 9.5 to 10 minutes, 9.5 to 10.5 minutes. And so I'm okay with that. It's been about 2 months, and I am still struggling. I also live in South Florida, so the heat index currently right now makes the temperature feel like it's above 100. And so anytime really you're running, unless you're getting up at the crack of dawn or running at like 9 o'clock at night, the heat index, the humidity, everything it feels like you're running through plastic. So I'm excited to be able to run somewhere with a little bit less humidity and see if that actually helps me recover as I'm breathing, throughout my intense run. So intense to me. So I got some Hokas. I have been able to train and do, roughly anywhere from starting off for the first couple of weeks, maybe just like a mile at a time, running 2 to 3 times a week. And then it progressed where I was a couple miles, a session that I would run, and I was still usually try to do that 2 or 3 times a week. So basically I have done about 2 or 3 runs a week, normally no less than a mile, no more than 4 miles for the last few months. And so that's where that number 45 or 46, whatever I showed you earlier from my Strava account, is where it's from. And so, man, I have loved it. Some things about my body that I've noticed that I have not been tending to as I ought has been my Achilles and calves. Even though I've been trying to train the past 10 or 15 years of my life and try to be as functional as I can and work out all the body parts that I need to, running will open up your Achilles and calves probably more than anything. The ground and pound, where when you're trying to strike with the forefront of your foot, to midfoot, and you want to strike on that outer, if this is the toes, as you strike on the outer and bring that midfoot in, that's where you want to strike. And then if your heel comes down, touches a little bit, that's okay. The goal is not to run and heels here, strike heel first. So just to be able to, the ground and pound on my midfoot and the forefront of my foot really lit up my calves. And literally until just this week, I have had, my calves have been giving out sometimes even faster than my cardiovascular system. So, you know, muscular and cardio, that's where you're going to be figuring out, like, how, you know, if your cardio is not in shape, then you're going to stop, you know, obviously, and have to walk during your run. If you start to cramp and muscularly, you're not, you know, your muscles are not used to what you're putting it through, then that might be the first thing that makes you, you know, stop or at least, you know, prolong your journey to where you want to run a couple miles, let's say, without stopping, or run a mile without stopping. You'll start to notice that your body is going to talk to you and tell you, you know, we need to stop because of these reasons. And, you know, a lot of good runners say it takes 3 to 6 months to get into, you know, running shape. And that for me would mean, you know, running a couple miles without stopping, nothing extreme at all, which I still think is a great, you know, progressive and awesome, you know, goal. Yeah, so my calves and my cardio have been definitely shocked, for sure, and I have been able to grow in that in these last few months. But I'm still stopping quite often in a 2 or 3 mile run. I'm stopping probably, you know, anywhere from 5 to 6 times. I usually try to run about a mile first without stopping, and then from that point on, I have, you know, my body starts to shut down pretty much. I have noticed and also been told by, you know, ex-college runners and coaches that are, you know, have been obviously with some type of long distance running or track and field. Being able to master your breathing is a huge feat. So obviously with gas exchange, right, we are, you know, we're breathing in oxygen and we're putting out carbon dioxide. And so when I run, I tend to do short, quick breaths. And what's happening is I'm retaining a lot of carbon dioxide and not putting into my body a lot of oxygen. So one, my hemoglobin is lacking, and two, my muscles are not getting the nutrients it needs at the oxygen that can give it. So as I'm running, I'm trying to master my breaths so that my gas exchange is being able to bring in and keep as much oxygen as possible. So that means I'm taking, you know, slower, longer breaths as I'm running. But as your heart rate increases, it's very, very challenging to do that. So there's a lot of things that your body is going through from when you start. Maybe you start to use the phosphagen system, right, in the first 30 seconds to a minute, especially if it's something where a lot of elite runners say, hey, just go ahead and crush those first 30 seconds of your jog, because, you know, studies and a lot of people have said and shown that if you sprint the first 30 seconds, it's really not going to deviate your normal running routine for that, you know, that session, meaning like you won't be completely wasted after that, and you'll still run a good, you know, pace with whatever you're doing, a couple miles. So you might be using phosphagen, and it could be, you know, anaerobic to aerobic, depending on where your thresholds and where you're at, you know, physiologically. And so for me, just being able to learn how to master my breaths, because I think that I turned to aerobic pretty quickly because of my lack of experience with running, and my body's not used to it. So my heart rate is very, very high. I'm assuming somewhere probably in the 170s to 190s, and a lot of people run at that pace, which is great. So all that being said, just learning about what my body's telling me. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to slow down. I don't want to get injured. I don't want to push it and say, you know what, I'm going to force myself to go run 5 or 6 or 7 miles at a time and, you know, have some 15-minute mile pace and just like wreck myself. I'm trying to be patient, and I actually have found it to be still very challenging just to run a couple miles at a time, and enjoyable and very, very refreshing. Everyone calls, you know, your post-run a run high, and truly your body, you know, from the sweating and the work that you're putting your heart through and your lungs through and your muscles through, it's very refreshing when you get done, you know, when you're recovering. So that's been kind of my journey. You know, I know that there's no really special secrets here, but for anyone that's watching this that's experienced, you know, please leave comments if you feel differently from anything that I've said, and also any advice, and then any new runners that would love to be able to talk or think this video is helpful. I would say go for it, man. Go for the running. I do think that there's a difference with jogging, and I'll stand firm with this, that can be very, very helpful for you, and also very, very hurtful for you. What I mean by that is that if you jog and you jog with improper form, and you heel strike, or if your hips and your glutes are not activated right, if you don't have a strong glute medius muscle, and your hips are not as strong as they should be, and you don't have the mobility that you need, and you swing at the knee, a lot of times you'll see people swing their leg out their knee and not their hip because they can't get their leg around. These types of things would cause injuries, particularly to your ACL, foot injuries, ankle injuries, hip injuries, and this is recreational for a lot of people. And oftentimes, too often, I think I see joggers actually looking like they're causing themselves more harm. Will they be able to get into a little bit of shape doing it? Sure, but it's inevitable the way that some of these people run that they're going to get hurt. And I don't mean that in any kind of prideful or in some kind of stance where I, know everything or know more about running than they do. They most likely probably have been running longer than I have, obviously. But knowing, the bones and muscles like I do, and technique and form, heel striking and swinging at your knee and those types of things to get your foot around for your gait pattern is inevitably going to cause some kind of compensation and injury. So I would be careful of that. I would focus on starting off slower, making sure your form is as best as it can be as you're becoming fatigued too, and taking your time. There's definitely different programs that say, hey, weekly you shouldn't increase X amount of percent than you've done the week before, and that's just to reduce injury risk. So overall, though, I would say, man, it is such a challenging exercise that I have such a newfound respect for those who have been running and those who run for long distances. I'm talking about people who run 15, 20 miles at a time at like an 8-9 minute pace. I mean, that is literally incredible. So to be able to just do a couple miles and be at 10 minutes, I'm pretty stoked about it. So please leave a comment, if you guys have any questions. I love to chat with you guys. I'm a new runner, I guess you could say, as far as consistency goes, and I'm learning all the tricks and traits to it, as I've also used my education and my experience in the past as a coach to be able to hopefully walk myself through some things. But I'm always learning. So thank you guys so much for checking this video out. Hope it's helpful, and